So welcome everybody, and good having you all here, and being in the beautiful city of Miami with all, as we mentioned, parking spots which are not there at the Miami airport, right? Yeah. So talking about the wholesale industry in a digital hungry age, the wholesale traffic marketplace trends and a part of the business innovation, a legacy, mouthful. Let's see what it means, and we'll discuss this with the senior executives here around the table. So first of all, a warm welcome to the audience. Thank you so much for joining us. Just give them a quick moment to introduce himself. Carlos, if I may start with you.
Absolutely. So I'm Carlos Brito. I've been with in the industry for the last over 20 years. So I'm telling my age a little bit here. From Bell Labs Innovations, Lucent Technologies, then Lucent became Alcatel Lucent, bought by the French people. Stayed with them for quite some time, and then I went to Nortel for yes, I had them all. Nortel, I was running Brazil for Nortel. I was the country manager for Brazil, and then I took Nortel to the next level. I was actually part of the people that were selling the company to the new owners, Siena, Ericsson, Avaya, and then Genband. Genband is a Texan company from Plano. I went to work with them for quite some time, 12 years ago, and then came back to the US in Miami, which is the hub for Latin America, running CALA, which is Caribbean Latin America, for all the companies from that point on. For Genband. Then I went to Juniper, almost 4 years with Juniper, ECI, which is an Israeli company. So I've been with all of them, and now with Accedian for the last 4 years. The good thing is I never compete against myself before. So I was moving from vertical to vertical, from layer 2, layer 3 packets to optical, from optical to observability, which is Accedian right now. So glad to be here. I'm having also Fernando Lenning, which is for technical for Latin America. And again, so just a privilege to be part of this, panel with this caliber of professionals and being part of the event as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Warm welcome. We're going to listen from you a bit more with your keynote presentation later on. Thank you so much. And good joining us, Carlos. Abraham.
Sure. Awesome. So thank you. I'm Abraham Smekey. I'm the CEO of Centro Global Services. Centro has 3 different business units. I specialize particularly in voice, SMS, and data services for the wholesale industry. So we've been in the industry for over 27 years, working precisely on wholesale. Most recently, we started our B2B business to enterprise, serving the Fortune 1000s in Mexico primarily. As well as recently, we started deploying our own fiber in Mexico as well. We have over 2,200 kilometers of fiber in Mexico's most diverse regions, primarily focused on Mexico's top 8 regions. Okay, and that's pretty much it. I've been at Centro for well over 19 years, and we've been working primarily towards the wholesale industry.
Thank you so much, everyone. Sure. Welcome to have you here. Justin, regular.
No, exactly. This is going on year 2. So, no, really appreciate everybody having me back. And, my background now, I've transitioned to being a board member at Mox. Previously, I was the CEO and president of Mox Networks, and now sit on the board. And Alan Meeks, who was my lead lieutenant, is now running the day-to-day operations. So I get to have all the fun in quarterly meetings, and he gets to do all the really, really hard work. So it's been really great and really enjoyable. And really, the company itself has continued to grow and expand and do some really amazing things, really within the dark fiber and very large capacity world, as it's building out network across the United States, Japan, and other countries within APAC. What it's trying to do is continue to grow and offer opportunities for folks who are looking for big pipes. Somebody wants to come to the United States and get 400 gig to multi-terabit to, I want a whole conduit or 24 fibers. It's a company that can support those kinds of initiatives. And I know there's fewer and fewer between those. And as more and more companies pile into the infrastructure space, days. It's been a lot of fun to see folks come see a hypothesis and a thesis we had 10 plus years ago becoming kind of the very hot item, if you will. Prior to that, I ran Corp Dev and Biz Dev at Sedera Networks, which was spun out of RCN Metro and was then later acquired by Light Tower and Crown Castle. And prior to that, I was actually a bankruptcy lawyer.
There you go. Good having you again, Justin. Thank you so much. And John.
All right. Hi, folks. Hi, everybody. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me. My name is John Denemark. I'm a Senior Vice President and General Manager of Carrier Provisioning Division of Newstar. I've been at Newstar for a while. I won't tell you exactly how long, but I'll give you a clue. I have two boys, and the oldest one is 21, and they're both Newstar babies. So it's been a while, and I've done a number of different jobs over the years, obviously for Newstar, starting with operations and moving to even sales briefly and product management. And now I have the pleasure of leading this part of the business. I don't know if you guys know about Newstar, but we were actually created back in 1996 to solve for the nationwide number portability in the United States and in Canada. And that was a major interoperability challenge of that time for communications business, for the communications industry. And with my part of the business with carrier provisioning, we continue to focus on those interoperability challenges in the communication space. So what we do is we help our carrier customers simplify and automate primarily the intercarrier ordering, their carrier ordering operations. And we also help to modernize some of the legacy systems that are still involved in those parts of the business. Really, our focus is on simplifying and automating, and that leads to, shorter cycle times, less cost, quicker path to revenue, typically. And for this conference, really, I just wanted our product suite in the buying and selling of wholesale network connectivity. So that's the part about wholesale. There's billions of dollars exchanged between the carriers on a wholesale basis, obviously in North America and worldwide. And we're focused on making that experience better for everyone in a way where we can eventually get to an automated marketplace here. So more on that later. That's it for me.
Thank you so much. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. And let's move ahead. So, Carlos, you're gonna do a quick keynote presentation in this panel session, actually, which actually he paid for, sponsored.
I watched one of them.
So, what are you going to talk about, Carlos?
Yeah, the title is So the title of the panel is gets us to discuss with the digital hungry age, what that means to us, right? To each one of us in different segments, and how we can explore a few point of views here about what really touch our businesses and our lives, and how we can make that experience a little bit better for each one of us, and see if we can learn from each other. So I put some provocative thoughts here for us to discuss. That's the idea. So we're gonna talk, and I'm gonna do that very straight to the point, short and sweet as much as I can. We're gonna talk about the 5G challenges and the use cases that are associated with that. Some of them, we're not gonna cover them all because there are just too many. We're gonna discuss the multi-access edge compute, which is the MAC. People just call MAC for short, and multi-operator heterogeneous edge and hybrid cloud. We're going to talk quickly about multiple IoT, MVNOs, and SD-WAN, and those phenomena in the industry, how it's affecting us. 5G and MAC. So that creates a foundation for new generation of use cases and applications. Right now, we are actually going through a divide. 4G was good enough for us to have conversation, communications, even to work remotely was good enough. But what 5G is doing for us is actually open up different avenues in different markets, verticals, the industry, third-party data risk, lifestyle, healthcare, education, financial, energy. And for each one of those different verticals, we have applications that are, again, data-driven applications that needs to have a network that is reliable, applications that require millisecond data processing, very low latency. So the latency that was accepted before with 4G is now we're discussing a tenth of that number. So it has to be below 50 milliseconds. So anything more than that is not acceptable anymore for those applications. And some of those are very mission critical applications that can, define life or death. So we are in a different space where what we had before that we decided to call good to have. Now those are the things that we are, mandatory to have in the networks that we are discussing. The list is great. We can go one by one of the things: motion control, cloud in ocean, collaborative mobile robots, remote control with haptic feedback, cloud rendering AR, all those things in that X right here, the X, right? So they are things that have to have 5 nines reliability, right? Things that would not accept anything that goes beyond the units of microsecond of latency. And this is the challenge that we're gonna have as an industry. How we're gonna make those things a reality for big cities, like New York, like even Miami, places like São Paulo in Brazil, Mexico City. Those we can afford and easy to do. Central has that as well. 5G being launched, not in Mexico yet, but in São Paulo, yes. In other countries of Latin America already. Yeah, it started. Not non-standalone with AT&T, but it started. Exactly, good point. So, but we got to a point that, far from the big cities, that discussion is not there yet, but it's going to be, and has to be. We have to be inclusive with this technology. It's part of the challenge that GCCM and other entities are discussing is really to make 5G a very inclusive technology. Economics are always going to be driving those things is going to be the drive force, but it actually is one of the intent. So all those things, they require very low latency, and we have to make sure that the networks that we are, providing can deliver that low latency. So, but what's the reality, right? The reality, when you go to see the service provider, the CSPs that are delivering those services, that's the reality. They have a bunch of silos, right? By technology, by types of technology, by types of organization, by operations. And then they have the layer 2 services, they have the layer 3, the IP core, the voice over IP, the optical, the SD-WAN, the cloud. And each one of those domains are very, linear, very, like a silo, right? Operating from a processes point of view, from a service, from a tools point of view, from everything that you can describe here. It's really a silo. So how are you actually going to change that, right? You have to make sure that those different, walled gardens, as the way that we call it in the industry, can start having visibility across their operations. So you have to have some entities that are going to be able to overflow that type of communication and make sure that all the layers are communicating to each other and they are advancing to a point that you start having, one single pane of glass, if we will, to show, how the operation is going forward. So the complexity is also getting even greater when you start looking to the users of those networks. So if you go to an enterprise, how many connections, how many layers of connections you're going to see in that enterprise? The carrier with all the other carriers connecting to the cloud, to the hyperscalers, right, of the world. How those connections are going to be if you start adding to that a different level of interconnections and start having multi-cloud or multi-domains type of scenarios, which is going to be very common going forward with the Mac. So that's the mathematics. That's going to happen when we start having interconnected, the connectivities, the hyperscalers, the partners, the customers, the enterprise, and the mesh is going to be just, unmanageable. And we are getting to that point, and that's where the industry is going. Similarly, also with this SD-WAN, which is the technology that a lot of those service providers are using right now, you have a bunch of different suppliers, a bunch of different, sub networks that are not, looking at each other. They are not speaking with each other. They are not considering each other domains as they deliver their services. And that reality is not for one of service providers, for all the service providers that we know of. And maybe, Centro is our customer. So we discuss a lot with Centro, for instance. They have a different view. They have the view that is integrating the technology to a point that you have one single layer of operation, and that model is going to be a success. It's already a success, and that's what we see other people going. But not a lot of people have the same scale that they have. They have people that are buying other companies for many years, and they have, a crazy type of situation that they have to manage, and that's explaining exactly that type of situation. So, how you can assure an SLA in that context of multi-MNO federated application delivery challenge, right? You have different MNOs working in different geographies, and then you have use cases. I'm going to touch some of them there. That is, the SLA is going to belong to whom? Who is the responsible for the final service that's going to deliver? So that is the questions that we are addressing here. So, in quick example, last week I was in Europe. So, and I have my car is it's electric car that has everything's virtual, and I use an application in my cell phone. So I was in that MNOA, for instance, which is it wasn't Deutsche Telekom, but it was in the UK, O2. With my cell, my wife calls me in the morning, says, "Where is your your keys for your car?" And I said, "Really? I forgot that. I don't know what it is." And then I took my phone, and then with the application from the car that's running somewhere in the cloud, connecting to the networks, my network, I saw where is the key. The key happened to be inside of the car, and I told her that. And I opened the car with my cell phone, right? And the car was actually connected to Wi-Fi, but could have been connected to another MNO here, T-Mobile, and that action transverse many different touch points in the network in this ecosystem. So, who is responsible if I cannot open my car with the cell phone? It's going to be the data center, sure, that is in California. That would be the instance of O2 that I was using to connect to the network. So that is an example that there is not a big problem there. But when you go to things of that nature, when you have a vehicle being controlled by the network, and the same network that's controlling the vehicle is actually controlling the IoT of the city, and it's actually giving you the traffic red light in a microsecond, a millisecond later than the moment that it should be giving you that red light, that might be a life going, exactly. So that's not my car anymore. So those type of systems, and that's one use case that goes through different service providers, different IoT networks, different hyperscalers, and going across all those different instances. And one life can be, at that, cross sections right there. So those are the discussions that 5G, MAC, and the multi-domain type of networks are going to be bringing to us. And that is a lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of entities, and you have to have somebody that can read the SLA, take ownership on the SLA, and tell, forensic, actually, in a moment, using forensics for that, saying, okay, that happened, somebody was responsible, and the liability is on O2. Because at that moment, their network actually failed, packets were lost, or connection or synchronization was lost at that very second, and the car accident happened just because of O2 network. And that is the point that we're getting as an entity right now, as an industry right now, right? So what we are seeing with 5G networks, exponential data consumption growth, and that's going to continue. We are seeing an increased number of network elements being added to the network, new RBS base stations, just because of the coverage, the model, the technology is required. A lot of new data centers that are actually closer to the users, right? Which is the MAC concept. So you're actually distributing the data closer to the user and to the application. We have hardware and software disaggregation happening as we speak, right? And you have more elements to be controlled. The complexity is growing. We have telco cloud and also distributed cloud, right? And you have the SLA for mission critical applications. This is, a little bit of the picture that we are discussing here. With the multi-MNO or multi-edge, multi-cloud requirements, millisecond when needed, microsecond granularity for cross-operator network performance assurance, micro detail per packet intelligence. So we have to look into packet by packet, not as DPI, because DPI is post-processing, and it's also a lot of data being required to be managed. This one here, what discussing that you have to have, it's real time and using also a lot of metadata, right, for those discussions, because metadata is key for intelligence. Have to have a single pane of glass, open APIs, carrier grade MNO, and anchoring ecosystem that's going to give the ISVs, Internet Service Providers, the same type of visibility. In summary, this is what we saw. Very quickly here. I'm not going to cover all of that, but what we do as a company is really to deliver the visibility on the layer 2 and layer 3. We provide sensors to the industry. The sensors that are going to be deployed at either a piece of hardware at the data center or the router or the base station, or a centralized software as a sensor that's going to be sensoring the network at the layer 2 and layer 3. Looking for packet loss, anything that has to do with latency, and aggregating that information into one single machine learning oriented software that has the capability of correlate all the data that's being generated and time stamped, and to bring insight to those operations and giving all those service providers that type of visibility, or observability, the word that we're using now. So I want to stop here because I think it was a little bit more than 10 minutes that I was expected to cover, but I think I was able to bring a lot of good discussions to the table here on the space of creation of data, massive data creation, lack of visibility, lack of observability, and everything that's impacting the day-to-day of the companies that you guys are part, and an industry that you guys are also part of. So that's what I had for this conversation today.
So thank you so much, Carla. Really intriguing, and thank you for sharing this with us and with the audience. And are there any questions for Carlos so far? No. Oh, clear, Carlos. We're good done. And if you have any questions, and Fernando and Carlos are here from Accedian, so they're touching. So you can talk to them. So absolutely. So thank you for that so far. So let's move in. And Justin, if I may start with you. I mean, we're talking about the wholesale industry in the digital hungry age. So from your point of view, from Mark's point of view, what do you see around you? What are we talking about in the wholesale industry?
I think it continues to be the growth from a wholesale perspective of, as we're buying and selling more and more and more, there's more services too, and I think it goes to speak of everybody who's up here in kind of a different part of that ecosystem, whether you're going completely up the stack or you're just buying more layer 1, you're buying more layer 2, you're doing more with your layer 2 and your layer 3 traffic. There's so many new kinds of applications that we weren't contemplating, if you will, before, and some of those use cases haven't panned out as much, but there's also not been a great way to truly automate it in the past, which I know other people up here are going to talk even more knowledgeably certainly than me about it, but as a user and provider, that's going to be something that I think helps elevate us to the next level and continue to use even more of it. And I think, Carlos, your example in, driving cars and your car key, I think is a perfect use case. And when you look at it and you say, how can all of those things interoperably connect and how can we continue to advance it? It's going to need to have a better way to buy, sell, and automate from one another to an operational element as well. Because even after you buy and sell it, it still operates many times at a carrier level as a swivel chair. Eventually, it reaches a human who has to turn around and turn something up, and turn around to another human that has to turn it up, and turn around to another human that has to turn it to the billing department, who then has to talk to another human on the customer side and make sure that everybody has accepted the service. that whole process continuing to be automated with the front end of the buying and selling, I think will be the next iteration of what we're all going to start to see, what everybody at this panel and in this room and beyond wants. And I think collectively, it's going to have to be a collaboration to get there. It's not just going to be one company that's going to help get us to this next level. There's going to be this huge collaboration amongst everybody to get there, integrate all the legacy systems, and also look at everybody implementing the newest, latest, and greatest.
Okay, thank you so much. Abraham?
Sure. So, I mean, everything you mentioned and the things Accedian are doing, as you know, we are already doing it together, many of those things together, using some of your services. And I think you guys are right. I mean, the use cases are going to be there. They're already there, and they're going to continue to build up. They're going to continue to be there, and they're going to continue to demand more from each and every one of us. I mean, at least from the Mexico LATAM point of view, these huge companies, these huge hyperscalers, they had to go all the way to Brazil to provide their services, for all of LATAM, instead of to a much shorter way in Mexico, which talks about your milliseconds and everything we're talking about regarding what the ability is going to be for them to provide the services to the rest of the world and to you layer 2, layer 3 kind of guys. So the main issue we had was precisely that, a lack of scalability within our region, in the LATAM region. They're changing that right now. I don't know how where all of you guys are, but they are changing that by creating one of the largest hubs in LATAM in Querétaro. It's a city 100 miles, 80 miles away from Mexico, 100 miles away from Mexico. And they're starting to build up, and all of the hyperscalers are coming here precisely to serve that specific purposes that you guys are saying, that scalability, that use cases, the amount of capacity that's going to be required for everything. It's so huge, and the response time is so important that they needed to find a much closer way and a much closer approach. So I do think wholesale isn't there yet to be able to serve those purposes. They're not. We're hoping to support that and make it manageable for them within country partners, because each country has their own challenges, has their own agenda, has their own future and visibility. And we as wholesalers have to be there to provide those services for them in order for that back end of the services to be able to achieve what those use cases are going to bring to the table.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, I'm going to pick on a couple of things. So you were talking about 5G and SD-WAN, and actually where we come in on that is we just help the carriers establish the underlay for that, for the SD-WAN, and we help the 5G wireless guys to help them densify their network, right? So actually a couple of our biggest customers are wireless providers that need to densify their network in order to roll out 5G and then support all of those exciting use cases you guys are talking about. We're way down from that, right? All we're focused on and all we really want to do for our customers is to help them streamline and automate that wholesale buying and selling of network connectivity. And the reason that's important, and the reason that fits in with some of these examples that you guys are talking about, is that everybody wants everything quick and real time. And when there's a need for connectivity, you want it now. Well, if you have to buy it on a wholesale level, it can take months to get that basic connectivity set up, right? Because just the ordering process is ridiculous. And then of course, what happens with that order once it's taken in by that provider, there is a lot of manual intervention. Something, Justin, you were talking about the humans, taking this order every step of the way and making sure that actually, yes, we got the order. Oh, there's an error. We send it back. Somebody has to look at it. Somebody's got to work on fix it, then send it back to that selling carrier. That selling carrier finally accepts it. Then they have to walk it in through their provisioning process. There's a lot of swivel and manual intervention, and that leads to these long cycle times. And that, I think, is kind of an Achilles heel for this whole thing of essentially being able to being able to support these exciting new use cases that are out there. So again, our mission in life is to help fix that process with a new digital platform that we've created. It's called Universal Order Connect. It is API based, and we can actually plug into the OSS BSS stacks of our customers on the buy side and our customers on the sell side, and help streamline and automate that whole process so that we take cycle time out and we get the time to revenue faster and the time to service faster, right? More importantly for our customers. So I'll just stop there.
So percentage-wise, how much faster?
Oh, it depends on each carrier's actual process, but anywhere from 5x to 10x, it's serious improvements.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, gentlemen, because and Carlos, maybe for you to kick this off. How do wholesalers overcome the challenges of finding the right partners to expand their service coverage and footprint? I mean, we touched on it already, but a lot of challenges, but also on the opportunity side, there's something to say.
Thank you. Yeah, so the challenge is complex. So it's not easy, right? Because we have entities that are competing against each other there. Then many times they have similar interests. So sometimes it makes sense for them to compete. Sometimes it makes sense for them to collaborate. I think it's going to be again, economics going to be driving this one again. Yeah, ruling at the end of the day. But I think it's going to be a rule of finding what you want to do as a company, as an entity. If you really want to be a player that's competing with the service providers locally, or if you're just deciding to go and carry aggregated traffic in a wholesale type of market, so that is a different story. So it's really about your business case as an entity, right? And then based on that, you're gonna find within your ecosystem, suppliers from the hyperscalers, partners to carry your traffic to the last mile. You're gonna find suppliers, technology suppliers like ourselves that are going to be able to help you to automate, as John is saying, your life cycle, services life cycle, and make sure that you have not only your back end, but also your front end automated, and being able to deliver the services and everything else in such a way that there is no manual interaction, that everything is automated. Is that enough? That's a good question. It's case by case, but I think it's you have to at least bring your business approach to a level which is
Good first step.
Yes, what is the digital transformation? Make sure that you have that done. You have your people trained. You have your partnership defined. You have your business case put together. You know what you want to do as you grow as a company, as an entity, and innovate in that part and try to be different and be agile and be better. And that's what's going to be driving the partnerships and the complementary entities for your business.
I just want to build on that for a second. I think you mentioned an important thing, Carlos, is co-opetition and kind of what we involve with in this industry, especially that. Yeah, I mean, it's a dirty word and a lot of people don't like it, but it's how everybody survives.
But it's real.
Right. It's real that,
It's a market, right? I mean,
if I sell a pair of fiber to somebody, they're instantly my competition on the same route that I built. But guess what? That's healthy.
Yeah.
That's healthy not just for our business, but it's also healthy for everybody else's business because they may have a smaller subset of customers. And that's the beauty of what wholesale does. Wholesale helps to expand that, and choosing your partners wisely. And I think partner being the key word here is
push each other on SLAs.
absolutely. Because there's going to be customers where I'm not going to want to meet that SLA, the end user, enterprise customer, hyperscaler, whoever it might be. I'm just going to look at them and say that it's just not feasible.
No.
Let them go yell at somebody else for credits. And there's always going to be somebody else that comes buys 2 pair of fiber and says, I can light it up and make that work. And they're willing to take the business risk. And they have their risk evaluation going to say, yes, I can go do that. Absolutely. And that's what makes wholesale beautiful and what makes it really unique from a standpoint of where we all are. And, it also, I think, further incentivizes new builds. So like, if we're out there and we're building a brand new route like we are on the West Coast between, Portland and Seattle and connecting data center communities in Hillsborough and some of the new cable landing stations, as well as, some of the legacy ones, such as Taqueros and others, there are opportunities that we can fulfill for end customers, but we'll never be able to do that without wholesale. We'll never be able to fill that pipeline unless we're actively selling everything that's possible on the truck to everyone. There cannot be any way in which anybody can look at it and say, hey, this subset of customers in wholesale, retail, or whoever, we're just not going to sell to them. It would be biting our nose to spite our face. So that opportunity really expands that nomenclature of what partnership can be, as well as those that you can partner to do joint projects. Maybe I build a part of a route and somebody else builds another part of a route, and we can collectively then sell to a larger subset of customers and it divide up the world, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, you guys make excellent points. I just learned a new word, Justin. It's a great word.
I can't take credit for that one.
No,
I stole it from somewhere else.
I know.
It's a real word, and the reality is it's just that. I mean, you have to find the right partners, and in order to find the right partners, you have to look at the strategic future of each company, right? There are some companies that have been here for a long time, and they keep building the same way and doing things the same way, and it just isn't feasible anymore. You can't continue to work that way. You have to start innovating, and you have to start finding new ways and new structures to partner up with someone else. But you're saying you're completely right on the fiber side. I mean, you can build up, and what we're doing now is we're building our hundreds of over 216 cables, and people in Mexico are saying, "What the hell are you doing? I mean, what the hell for? I mean, if you put 12, you're gonna have
Got to be kidding me.
yeah. If you put 12 pairs, it's gonna be very hard to sell them." And we're like, no, I don't think that's the case anymore. Quite the contrary, we're looking for that competition, that cooperative, and being able to work with each other and being able to sell, because the services behind each pair of fiber is different now. Just as you were saying, I won't be able to do SLAs. Maybe you will. And
Diversification.
and that diversification it's necessary for us to be able to go to the next place. Also, it's important to understand that not everyone is good at everything. There are some people, there are some partners that are good at some different places. A lot of the international carriers use us in Mexico because we know what we're doing and we're able to help them there and we're able to build there, etc. Right? So there's some companies from the US that are coming over to Latam and trying to start deploying their own fiber, and it doesn't work that way. For example, I just remember AT&T, when they came to Mexico, they had over 5,000 kilometers of fiber to be deployed.
Sure.
And it only took them 3 years to figure out that they can't. They can't. It's
Planning.
yeah, if they're gonna continue
We
to,
talked about it this morning
yeah.
with the Taqueiro and the other guys.
it's a reality. They won't be able to deploy it, and they start using people like us that we are in country, and we are able to start deploying that fiber and developing those routes, etc., with the Mexican entities, which are different than anywhere else in the world. So in that case, in particular, AT&T found us very valuable as a strategic partner, and there's other use cases and such. So what I'm trying to say is just focus on the in-country carriers, focus on what they can achieve for you, and work together with them to see how you can create that product, that specialized product for the rest.
And be complementary. Yeah, as we said. Okay, let me throw something in the round, and that's all about the new technologies. And then, John, if you may kick it off, please. I want to know how. I mean, we talked about 5Gs and other new technologies that can reshape, let's say, the wholesale business. So, John, if the new technologies pushes us and have a huge impact on our service portfolios, how and in what way? How do you see it? What can you share with the guys here?
Well, what we see in our part of the world is, and again, the wholesale buying and selling of network connectivity has been for years. It's been there for years, right? It's been a requirement forever, right? But it hasn't really been invested in. It's kind of been the backwater of the industry. But what we've seen in the last few years is that there are some trends that are happening in the industry that are putting a new focus on this area because the demand for connectivity keeps growing. And the reason it keeps growing is some of the things you guys have all been talking about. You know, we talked about 5G, we talked about SD-WAN. There's, you know, that wasn't around for a few years ago. We've got, you know, IoT, we've got the edge computing, we've got all these trends that are new, and not to mention some of the applications that are out there that people want to roll in over the 5G. So we've got a lot of change in the industry right now. And for us, what that means is that the demand for the basic connectivity infrastructure that we help to provide is growing. There's also, not to mention, there's also a huge competition for the enterprise market right now. Right? So again, where we come in and what we're trying to help and fix for the industry is imagine you're a carrier, you're selling and nobody's got footprint everywhere, right? So you're selling enterprises, they have some part of their operations out of footprint, you have to go buy, right? And then you got to figure out, okay, well, you know, who provides that service? How much is it going to cost me? How do I even order from this carrier? Because everybody has a different way of doing things. And that's where we come in with our solution that actually stitches that entire process together and makes it seem. And honestly, we don't do it all ourselves. We have partners also. You know, we have partners for the serviceability and quoting. We do the ordering ourselves. We can do the trouble ticketing ourselves. But then we've got partners coming in for service assurance. Once that thing is in, it's not your circuit anymore. How do you know how it's performing? So for service assurance, we got partners that plug in. And then for, you know, we're talking about, you know, the financial analytics around this. How much am I spending? Should I be spending this much? And then there's the whole blockchain piece of thing. Like, okay, can we use blockchain to actually take one of the biggest pain points around this thing, which is invoice reconciliation, right? And disputes. Can we use blockchain that's linked to the ordering process to actually take all that stuff out and just lock it down and say, okay, this is what it is. Disputes go away. So that's what we're working on in this area.
Okay, thank you. So, Carlos, from you?
No, I think the points that John just brought up are so perfect. So, you know, on it, that not much more to add. But one thing you mentioned also, just to build upon that, there is always, you know, the discussions, how we going to get this new set of customers, right? That does not exist, you know, at this point in time. So this new vertical, if you will, service provider is going to be the same. So you can do you know, 5G on your own, or people are actually now is discussing, okay, so do I launch my private network, my 5G private network to attend my needs, right? If you're a mining company, if you are, you know, whatever, like retail stores, whatever might be the case, people are discussing that, and they are actually going to that route, right? Of creating new networks, either brand new standalone private networks, 5G private networks, or buying what we call in the industry slices from the service providers to create your own slice for the 5G, partitioning the service provider network into a specific application of your own, right? What is the net result of that? It's actually more. It's more, because it's not going to be 1 + 1 = 2. It's going to be the one that I continue buying from that entity, and I'm going to create my slice, or I'm going to create my own, you know, private network, and I'm going to generate more traffic, more points of interaction, interconnections, more, you know, diversity in terms of, you know, failure paths for, you know, whatever happened to my, you know, application, I still going to be up and running. So those discussions of extending entities, what John just mentioned, are going to happen. And I think that is also something that is going to bring more good problems for us to solve, right, in the industry. Yeah.
Last thing, guys, because we can move on, but security, surveillance, I mean, privacy, you know, the personal data topics which are on our mind as well in the wholesale industry, right? So Abraham, how you cover that? Quick one.
All right, so real quick, I I'm gonna go back to the last question, which was partnerships, right? We have to do it through partnerships. You have to find the specialized agents, the specialized people that can work with that and that have the ability to do it. It's incredible to see how many cybersecurity companies have popped up over the past couple of years that have been in the industry for over 20 years, and nobody knew them or nobody needed them as much as they need them now. So yes, to manage the Fortune 1000s, you need to have cybersecurity, and it's unbelievable to see how little budget they assign to cybersecurity. It's unbelievable.
Wake up.
They don't spend 1 cent until they actually see that they really need it because they're already being hurt by someone else or being hacked or whatever. So it's coming. It has to be there. And I think we just have to create more awareness of the importance of having that security behind it. Otherwise, they're just going to keep getting affected and they're going to keep losing billions and billions of dollars that they're losing now.
But are we happy to price it in? And because somebody has to pay the bill, right?
Right?
Happy you can take it.
I think you're totally right. And I think it has to be priced in because to your point, nobody wants a separate line item for this budget.
Correct.
Nobody wants to own the cybersecurity budget because all you are is a cost center that makes no money. And then you hope that you never have to use it. It's like insurance.
Yep.
Is really kind of what it comes down to. And what we're seeing more and more is it has to be priced in. Whether as a wholesaler and a provider, if you will, to other wholesalers, we have to build it in on our network, whether that's from an application provided by an equipment manufacturer, something else we layer on top, and simply it's being given away as part of the service. You can tout it as a differentiator, but kind of what you were saying, Abraham, is your point. The customer doesn't care per se until it's a problem. So it's like, great, that's nice to have, but if you still can't hit my $1,200 price point, I can't buy this. Well, okay, you could buy it from somebody for $1,200. I'm $100 more, and it is what it is, but you're getting a lot more for the money. So I think there's going to be a value to that. How that continues to evolve, I think will be interesting if we can get CIOs and CTOs to start to think more logically rather than just, I only have a budget X, and maybe they start to borrow from Peter to pay Paul, if you will, on their own budgets to make that work.
Okay. Last round, guys.
Another question or future? Oh, wow. I got that. No problem. Yeah.
Done. I know that. But a picture of the future. What can we expect? What is your takeaway for the audience? Taking into account the latest developments, what should we look out for? Yeah.
Well,
minute?
yeah. Let's. So I just I'll keep it brief. I did want to say about the security, guys, just to take it from Neustar's perspective as a business, not just a wholesale provider, but just as an enterprise. We were acquired by TransUnion last year. I think you guys know, right? Some of you may know. TransUnion is one of the major service credit bureaus out there, right? And even before then, security became like one of the top 3 issues for the enterprise as a whole. It might be number 1, honestly, because it is such a key, we cannot get hacked. Nobody can you just can't in this day and age. And there are threats everywhere out there. And the amount of investment that's going into security is incredible. I remember years ago in politics, somebody said when they die, they want to come back as the bond market. I want to come back as a security guy, because that is, speaking about the future, there is so much that still has to be done. But for us, it is definitely one of the top 3 enterprise priorities. From a future perspective in our world, I really do see a future where we do have these API based integration between the wholesalers, and we have streamlined that process. It's going to take a while. This is not going to happen over the next 2 to 3 years. Even if everybody out there bought our solution, there's still work to do internally on the OSS and BSS stacks. But I do see it going that way, and everybody wants that, and I think it'll happen.
Justin?
No, I agree with what John's saying in terms of the automation. And, I think that as more companies come into that space and add new value and able to provide a new level of service and really kind of removing as many of these human interactions as you can from the ordering to provisioning process, I think it'll continue to advance and get better. It'll make wholesale much more streamlined, much more transparent, if you will, because right now there's a ton of opacity on why I talk to one sales rep at one company and get one price. I talk to another one, I get a different price, and bringing that kind of clarity to it, I think will make life so much better for wholesale and enterprise. I think it's one of the biggest frustrations we hear about in selling to customers, both large and small, is that it's impossible to understand why different carriers charge different prices for the same service. So I think trying to bring that level of transparency and removal of a lot of the middle tiers, if you will, from these services can be a huge boon for the customers and can be a huge boon for all of us.
Okay, and let's hope that we don't see any more price erosion happening, right?
Right.
Because actually we have to price in more services, right? As we just mentioned. But thank you. So, Abraham, what's your take for the what can
So I
that
think
take away?
we need to understand that we have to keep innovating. I think bottom line, services have to change. I recently heard of a company that's selling data services, one of the largest ones in the world, are selling data services on a per month fee, right? Meaning no longer a 12, 24, 36 month service. And I think that's great. I think that's amazing. Why? Because it's going to start removing those specific issues where why is one more expensive than the other. I think if you give the end user and the carriers the ability to buy from in a different perspective as a service now, more than on a per need basis, I think it's going to completely change the industry. I think wholesale will be changed completely and forever for that. I thought it was an amazing idea to do that. And as long as the capacity keeps growing, the use cases keep growing, now with blockchain coming along, it's going to be requiring a lot of, because we all talked about IoT, 5G, etc. Blockchain is going to be using a lot of bandwidth eventually. And I think all of those things are going to keep improving. They're going to keep people like us here reinventing, trying to search for new ways to achieve and give those services to our customers. And I think people just have to reinvent. If you ask me what the future is going to look like, I don't think anybody's going to keep selling the 36-month or 60-month plans. I think it's going to start changing on a much more common basis to 1, 2, 3 months, and I think it's going to.
Because this is what we're going to see in the wholesale. Because everybody with a subscription can in the future, and let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, wholesale is just following, right? And
I
we're
agree.
too slow
I agree.
in our target time to market.
That's
Because in the mobile market, what will happen is that you can change whenever you want to change something.
correct.
Because nowadays the demand is so high, they want to have whatever they want to have it now.
Now,
And if they don't get it, I switch my provider.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yep, exactly.
And that's what's going to happen.
You're right.
And that's why we need to follow that as well. So I'm not surprised in hearing that in hearing that, I say, that concept of a model by pricing, let's say, every month. I know it's difficult. We need to adapt. But we also have to look, let's say, a different industry for once to see, hey, how do they do it? How are they so efficient and we're not? And we always say, yeah, but it's not so complex as our telco. Bullshit.
I agree.
It's not. And so innovation, absolutely, and fast. And guys, now, Carlos, your
Yeah.
famous last words for this
the
panel
audience.
session and from Accedian, please.
No, yeah. So again, great to be part of the conversation. Great ideas. Also, two things, right? One is security. It's it was a nice to have. It's not any longer. Everybody's actually seeing on their own and being attacked and everything. So we saw that as a company. 2 years ago, we actually just recently launched a solution leveraging the years of data manipulation that we have as a company. We are 75% of all global service providers utilize our technology for assurance. So now we are actually getting that data and saying you can go and analyze that data from a different point of view, go deeper in analysis and be able to flag to you real threats that you're having. So that's we are doing that. Second, future. Two things that are pillar for this industry are not going to change. The geographies going to be exactly the same. We're not going to be closer to each other as continents or
And
places.
don't tell me 60 seconds in a minute or what?
Yeah, no, it's not. So that's a good thing for wholesale. We're gonna have that this geography to be achieved, and the technology to transport data as the way we do. I don't think that's going to change significantly over the years. We're gonna have improvements. We're gonna get more data in less, more capacity in less, channels and stuff like that we're discussing this morning. But those two things are not changed. So we have to change things that John mentioned very well, which is automation, being able to take the middleman out of it, so to avoid mistakes, to be more secure, more reliable, right? And being able to do closed loop automation for the operations, for the OSS BSS stack, and make sure that I think it's going to have some consolidation, some level of consolidation.
Absolutely.
It's going to happen, right? But the hyperscalers are going to need the wholesales, the service provider are going to need the wholesales, even the satellite industry is going to complement, but not going to replace, as we discussed this morning. So those are my topics, not far, but in the next 5 to 10 years, that's what I see happening.
Thank you. I would add to that, like I did this morning, creativity. Be creative, because without creativity, innovation is just a buzzword. So we're I think all great minds, all clever, all intelligent, so we can make it up. But our target time to market should far faster. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Accedian. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Abraham. Thank you, Justin. As always, thank you for being my regular here in Miami. Thank you so much. And John, absolutely appreciate it for you. And thank you guys for being here and sharing it with us. And more to come. We have another day, which is tomorrow, another 2 fantastic panels. So my thanks goes to the team over there, Care Community, to make this all happen. And if you have any questions to these guys, they're walking around here. You can touch them. You can talk to them. You can, ping them. You're here, right? Yeah, there you go. So thank you so much, and see you soon here on this podium. Thank you so much.